Welcome to Thursday, January 14th, 2021. And this is Pastor Mike and Pastor Bree present Fun with Faith. As you can probably see, Pastor Bree is not here this morning. That is because she has a Board of Ordained Ministry meeting that is happening right now on Zoom as well. So this is kind of the thing we fell into is when the pandemic started, when things got locked down, everything got canceled, kind of writing stuff down on a calendar didn't make sense anymore. And so we find out we have Zoom meetings like the day before, the day of, when we get the link sent to us. And we're like, oh, hey, yeah, we have that meeting. But that happened to both of us this week. And so I have started to recommit myself to putting things in my calendar. I'm so glad you're joining us. I do want to invite you to go ahead and invite your friends to join us. You can do that by sharing the link to this live stream. It also helps when you like and comment and subscribe and all of those things. So please do that. While you're doing that, I'm going to share with you this morning's Did You Know? Did you know? And I didn't know this one. And I don't know how they test this. And I don't want to encourage any of you to test this. But this is just a informational did you know? That falling in love is similar to the feeling of using cocaine. Apparently, both experiences activate the same brain chemicals and structures, causing a better mood, increase in sexual appetite, higher self-esteem, and greater consciousness. Yeah, don't. Just this is almost as bad as the life hacks calendar at some points here. Speaking of life hacks, the life hack for today from the randomizer on the life hack website. Is if you are confused by a Wikipedia article, apparently you can go into the languages and click Simple English. This is assuming you're reading an English Wikipedia article. Click Simple English on the list on the left of languages, and it will give you a simplified version of that article. That I did go and test out, and it does it. And I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, especially when sometimes there are like huge words that have meanings lost to people. So I would love to tell you what happened on this day in history. I would love to show a video of Bree telling you what happened on this day in history, but we didn't record one today. I asked her, I said, hey, you want to do one? She's like, not much happened today. So you can Google for yourself what happened on this day in history and see see if she's right. So what we're going to do today, there is a scripture, there is a devotional. If you have the devotional we're going through, Live in Grace, Walk in Love, you can read that. We may even get to this yet today, but if we don't, that's okay. Because today, for the first time in the year 2021, we have Sylvia Carruth with us, who works. I'm going to let her talk about what she does for a minute. So, because things get confused in my head. So I'm bringing Sylvia on. Hey, Sylvia.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, listeners.
So you work in mental health.
Yes.
But refresh people's mind. You've been on before, but refresh people's minds of the work you do.
Yeah, I'm currently in private practice, but prior to that, I worked for Chelsea Hospital, which became St. Joe's Hospital, at outpatient, inpatient, partial hospital level of care. So I've worked with a lot of great people. Some of them were professionals, and some of them were people coming for help.
Yeah. So the reason, when we started Fun with Faith, it was because people were locked down at home. We didn't think we're at episode 192 right now.
Oh,
we've done 192 episodes of Fun with Faith. We initially thought, hey, this will be a couple weeks. Here we are, 192 episodes later,
Yeah.
rapidly approaching 200. I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know why, but I am. And so we did this because people were locked down. People were having to deal with the boredom of being home, looking for ways to connect because human beings need human beings. That's kind of a thing. And then as things drag down, we're like, whoa, all right. So we have this viral pandemic, but there's also this mental health cost, this mental health pandemic. And so we've had you on, we've had my friend Rhonda on to kind of walk us through, help us with some things for dealing with all this. And now on top of all of that, we have this extremely divisive election cycle.
Yeah.
We have people, I hate to use, I hate the term, it drives me nuts, but storming the Capitol, all of this stuff. And now these veiled threats of continued violence and upheaval and all of this stuff. And we need help, Sylvia.
Yeah. We all need help, and the therapists hopefully are getting help, and we're helping other people. And it has been a triple storm with the political divisions and events, with the Black Lives Matter events and tragedies, and with this coronavirus pandemic. We often think, I can't take anymore. And then we find out, actually, apparently we can, because there's more that we have to cope with, manage.
We hear the saying, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. Apparently, God thinks I'm a Marvel superhero, right?
The alternative I've heard that I really like is, of course, God gives us more than we can handle. Otherwise, we wouldn't know that we needed God.
Yeah, that's very,
I like that.
True. I like that a lot
particular
better.
saying.
Yeah. So one of the things I've been dealing with, and maybe others have, which is, I can only speak for myself, but I assume that I'm normal.
Yeah, you're a real human being, so you probably have experiences relevant to other real human beings.
Right. I learned a long time ago, like I would get surprised if I found out that somebody struggled with something that I struggled with. Like there was this time in my life where I thought I was the only person who was struggling with these things. So you don't talk about it because it's weird and it's embarrassing and whatever. But that's not true. Like it's a lot of the struggles that we have as individuals, a lot of other people have, and it helps to know that. So one of the big things recently, during the 2020 pandemic lockdowns, all of that, prior to the election, it was kind of cyclic. The desire to engage in conversation and try and talk to people and have these conversations about differing opinions on stuff, where it would be, okay, I'm going to engage, and then I can't. I have to take a break. These days, like, I want to bury my Facebook app. I don't want to look at it. When I do, I see something I want to respond to, but I know nothing's going to come of it because it seems people are so set.
We're talking at each other, not to each other.
Yes. And I'm finding it more and more that there are people who I love and respect, who are it feels like are starting to drink the Kool-Aid of conspiracy theory, of the inciting of violence, of all of those things. So I have to imagine others are going through this. I have to imagine you have had conversations with people who are experiencing similar things. What are things how do we recover? How do we re-engage without it absolutely exhausting us?
I think it's important to take breaks, like you were discussing. Okay, that's a part of it, is really actually give ourselves permission to step out of the information stream, because typically there's somebody who will alert us if there's something really significant that happens. And when we re-engage, we can catch up because the information keeps being repeated. The fact that the information keeps being repeated means that our emotional and cognitive alert system takes a hit multiple times over the same event. So listening to it endlessly, waiting for something new, keeps that emotional alert system firing all day long and depletes us. We can't recover from it. Okay. So taking breaks throughout the day, deciding what type of media is the best match for us. Personally, I read, I listen to some NPR. If I find something interesting, I go online and look at videos. Okay. That's my diet, my media diet. Because by starting with reading, I can go find other stuff. But the human voice stimulates our emotional response system. Okay.
And there's more tone to that too, right?
Absolutely. It's the nonverbal cues. Also, some people have a higher threshold for that stimulation than other people. So we have to know kind of our own threshold for what kind of stimulus gets us how stimulated. And some people can have the news on all day in the house and they can function. And other people, that's kind of like paralyzing. So respect your own limits and know that doing that, you are being responsible, not somehow irresponsible for turning off the TV.
Yeah. So knowing your limits, knowing what is how different media is going to affect you, and giving yourself permission to unplug, if you need to. I feel like I saw somebody else say that recently, or heard somebody else say that. There are people who suffer from anxiety without any of the outside stimulus, right?
Right.
And some of that is feeling anxious that they're missing things. But you're absolutely right when you say if you unplug, if you shut down, and something important, really important happens, you're probably going to find out. Somebody's going to message you, or when you re-engage, it will be there. But I sometimes I feel like maybe it's like as you're scrolling through your Facebook feed, and that's where you're seeing news articles pop up or whatever. Every time that pops up, it's like you're walking into a punch, right? It's like you're just like, go ahead, hit me again. Go ahead, hit me again.
That's right.
And that's not exactly healthy. So
it wears us down and wears us out. Now, part of what we are having to fight against is our own natural urge to seek information when there is a threat. Part of human survival has been this response that we're scanning the environment for threat, so we can take evasive action, we can defend, we can flee, we can respond to the threat to diffuse it. So perceived threat, in addition to real threat. Okay, perceived threat gets us to lock in our attention so we can evaluate. Part of how we evaluate is to seek information. Okay, if I'm a rabbit in the bush and something startles me, I'm going to be looking so I can see. Okay, do I need to run? Which direction am I going to run? Okay, or can I keep munching the clover? Okay, well, we do that too. Our brains lock in. And that can feed that endless kind of more information seeking, all right? Because our threats are more complex. They're not as clear cut as there's the wolf. Do I freeze and hide? Do I run? Rabbits aren't going to fight, but you get the idea. Okay. All right. So our threats are more complex. And so again, if we're aware of this natural urge with anxiety to seek information, we can start dialing it back so it doesn't just continue to escalate the anxiety.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a reality too that, and I have this is when I unplug, which doesn't happen as often as it probably should, but when I unplug, it's because I finally find a space where I can tell myself, no matter how much information I have about this particular topic, it's not going to change what's happening.
Yes.
I can't fix it. I mentioned in my sermon on Sunday how January 6th, when the Capitol was broken into and all of those things happened, I was glued to it. I couldn't shut it off. I was checking headlines during dinner. I couldn't. Sat down to watch The Sound of Music with the kiddos, and they're watching that, and I have an earbud in listening to different news stuff and The Sound of Music, which was very, very disconnecting,
right?
And also at times very similar, but
right, because the Nazis show up.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I remember you mentioning that, Mike, and again, partly it's that very natural part, response of our brain and our emotional system that says, pay attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's in that sense, riveting is the word that we use.
Yeah.
And so again, it takes some self-discipline to recognize how much is enough. Okay. And then, is this the time to unplug so that I can recover a bit and then find out if there's additional information that I can make use of?
So
and by the way, I think you're normal. That's what that is.
Oh yeah. I think it's normal too. Honestly, I don't know that I could, if I didn't think it was normal, I probably wouldn't be able to share it.
Right. Yeah.
Because I do think that's something we all experience, and from an evolutionary standpoint, yes, this is fight or flight. This is what do we need to do now? But when it becomes apparent that answer of what we need to do now is there's nothing we can do right now,
right?
Then it's probably time to disconnect for a little bit and reset. So what are for people who are getting anxious and more anxious even as the day of the inauguration draws near, where we are seeing threats of at very least protests at all 50 capitals and people wanting to stop the inauguration, all of those things. What are some things people can do practically to help put away some of that anxiety?
Well, Mike, you really nailed it with your sermon on Sunday. Okay, because we are so wired to look for threat. For
the record, I did not ask her to say that. I'm just saying.
That's right. Every Sunday, you just totally nail it. Just so you know that. So because we are so wired for threat. Every spiritual practice I know says cultivate awareness of what is lovely, what is hopeful, peaceful, what is faithful, what is brings serenity. All right, because it is a intentional push against the survival instinct. All right, it expands a whole nother sense of who we are, experience of who we are, and experience of ourselves in the world. So things that bring some of that loveliness, some of that faith, that peace, that encouragement and hope into our lives. Prayer and meditation, notice it, underscore it and highlight it in our day-to-day. Simple things the way that buttered toast tastes, instead of paying so much attention to my news feed that I'm not even tasting it. I'm talking personally here. Okay.
Yeah.
Slow down and smell the roses. Make roses. Things that, again, just put us in a different brain rhythm. Okay.
Yeah.
I personally have done more coloring than I've ever done in my life. Okay. That wasn't something I was really into until this year. And it's a way to let my mind unplug.
Mm.
Okay. It's a kind of active meditative practice for me.
Yeah.
There are other things that people do of a similar nature. A walk where you're not thinking about problems.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent way to cultivate that connection with God, with other people, to reduce our sense of isolation by paying attention to the natural world around us, the wind on our face, okay? The way that the rain looks on the leaves, any of that really helps restore our system.
So part of it is being aware that your brain is riveted. You are your evolutionary responses are directing you towards paying attention to this, realizing you can't do anything about that, but that anxiety that comes, you need to intentionally disconnect from it. I saw somebody suggest, and I don't know if this is a real tool or not, or maybe we talked about it before, I don't know, but somebody in the middle of a anxiety or panic attack should like stop and look around the room and find 5 blue things, 4 things that start with the letter B, as a way to shift to a different gear in your mind.
That's exactly right. That's it. So again, that kind of principle of 5, it can be, 5 blue things. It can be 4 words that start with the letter P. It can be, anything that kind of engages the thinking and observing. One of those approaches that I've learned is the 5 things I see, 4 things I hear.
Oh, yeah.
3 things I feel. Again, using the senses. And you can even mix them up. It doesn't have to be exactly in that order. But really trying to tune into the environment and our experience in it.
Right. Because if we're like when we're watching Insurrection Live on CNN from Washington, D.C., and our fight or flight, that panic response is happening, but that danger's not here.
Yes, that's right.
It's not immediately applicable. To stop and realize your surroundings are safer than your brain is telling you it is.
Yes, exactly, Mike. Exactly.
Right. So that's helpful. That's very helpful. One of the things I recommend, and I had this conversation with Michaela yesterday because. And I think I mentioned before we went live that part of her school each day online is they watch CNN 10 for social studies. It's something for kids, but it also it talked about impeachment, and it talked about the protests and riot at the Capitol, and she's 11. She has questions. She wants to know. She heard things about warnings from the FBI about state capitals, and so we had these conversations, and I found some very helpful YouTube videos.
Good.
I want to tell parents, go to YouTube and just type in like, what is impeachment? And like very nice, well thought out cartoons come up and explain the process of impeachment. And I found that very helpful yesterday.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
One of the things I have done for a long time is journaling, is writing those thoughts, those emotions, whatever is going through my head. And for most of 2020, it was very sporadic. I couldn't bring myself to do it. No matter how many times I have read books about fictional books about pandemics or apocalypse or whatever, and all of these people keeping these detailed journals about, I couldn't do it. every day was such a blur together conglomeration. I couldn't do it. But for the last month or so of 2020, I set out to do it, and write, and amazingly, even just writing the mundane things, my calm was enhanced quite a bit. Writing down my thoughts about my thoughts and my worries and my fears help to remove some of that. And so my advice to Michaela yesterday was, now might be the time to really start journaling and putting those feelings down and putting those worries down and those things down on paper, so you're getting it out. And so I hope she does that. I also told her, I said, by the time you have kids, they're going to be going to school, and they're going to be reading about 2020, 2021 in history class. Wouldn't it be nice for you to be able to hand them your journal and say, this is what it was like? From my point of view. So for me, part of that has been thinking about the future, thinking about, a time. This is also that favorite things, right? Thinking about a time that's going to be better than the one we're in now, and how, in writing to that future person that's gonna read that future me, that future my kids after I'm long gone, what is that gonna be? There's something hopeful in that, I think. Even if you're writing in despair, which I have several of those kinds of writings from the last year. Even if you're writing in despair, there's a hopefulness, I think, in the act of writing and recording it down.
I agree, because one of the things we do is make meaning. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then that is an activity that contributes to our urge to figure out what things mean. And I use the air quotes because it's not all cognitive.
Right.
All right. And some of the meanings we make are useful and some are harmful.
Mm.
And that's partly what we see with some of the extreme views that are being expressed, is that some of the meaning that's being made is harmful. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important that we have some sort of, I'll call it fellowship. There may be other terms to describe it for other people, where we can kind of test out our meaning and find kind of a shared meaning that seems to be more, I'll say, valid, more balanced probably than we might come up with on our own. Okay. And people do that online. And again, unfortunately, online, those algorithms that are built into social media and all our computer systems tend to move us only toward those who are making similar meaning.
Right.
I think part of the frustration that you mentioned earlier, that we're talking at each other, not to each other, is again that we need to create meaning together for it to be as accurate, truthful, helpful, balanced as possible.
So Sylvia, sometimes, and maybe this is part of that, these algorithms have pushed us to groups making similar meaning, and maybe this is where this comes from. But there are times when I look to engage with someone I went to school with, 20 years ago, that was a friend, was somebody I loved, respected, even though even back then we had different views on things.
Yeah.
But now I try to engage, and it feels like, and maybe it feels like it for them too, that now I have to go back and walk them through 20 years of experience and learning, and like I have to take them to school so we're even speaking the same language. And part of that is where I am now, what I believe now, how I think now is different than what it was 20 years ago. I have 20 years of time, of experience, of failure and success that have led me to where I am, and it's a different path than they have traveled. But it feels like sometimes it is so different. There are times I feel like I have to explain to people what compassion is, what empathy is. You know what I mean? And
Right. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's frustrating because I'm there. I'm where I'm at.
Right.
I know how I got here. They don't want to sit and listen. I don't want to type out 20 years worth of
Right.
notes and experiences,
Right.
and they ain't going to read it anyway. So it is. I guess, is that normal?
Yes, yes, it is. Yeah, we seek to be understood. And when we feel like we're just hitting a brick wall, it feels devaluing, invalidating of my truth, my experiences, who I am, the meaning I make of myself and the world around me. It's distressing, and the urge then is to say it more, say it louder, okay, or give up in frustration.
Yeah.
And I don't have a great answer for you about that, Mike. I wish I could have more diverse conversations in my personal life with people, and have tried to invite people into conversation, and occasionally put a post on Facebook that sort of blows up. Not very often, but I do that once in a while. And I think that partly it's because I want to continue to try to actually have discussions, and also partly because I want to hear where people are coming from that have a really very different perspective than I have. But I don't feel like there's any particular dialogue shift. Respect is a helpful bottom line. Being willing to articulate my truth, sometimes just for the sake of saying it. Okay, being true to myself in the sense of saying it, without any expectation of convincing anybody of anything. There's a self-respect practice in that, and that's a valid reason. Sometimes asking people to explain their position just with a question, I find that confusing. Sometimes that can shift the dialogue a little bit by reducing defensiveness. But it's no guarantee that it's actually going to invite people to engage with us from a standpoint of respect and even goodwill. I feel like there's a deficit of goodwill right now. I think it would help us a great deal to be able to bring goodwill to those differences.
So the question that comes to my mind is: Do you think do you think we'll find a way back to civil conversation? Because I miss the days where my biggest the conversations I had with people of a differing political ideology were about economics.
Right. Yeah.
Do we give tax breaks to the rich and hope that the money funnels down? Give them tax breaks so they can pay their workers more. Well, they don't really do that, and have those conversations. And now it's, you're stupid. No, you're stupid. And
30 years ago, when it was kind of like, well, what really is the difference between these two candidates?
Right.
Right. Are they really all that different? I don't think so. Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah, and it is frustrating, but I think we have some good things we talked about today that people can do: the intentional disconnecting, the resetting your brain and your evolutionary reactions to things. but also I do want to say to people, if you feel like your anxiety or your depression through all of this is not something you can manage, that's okay.
Yeah.
Find a counselor, find a therapist, find your own Sylvia to talk to and process some of these things, because what you're feeling is normal. We all get there
Yeah.
at some point or another where we need the help, and the dangerous piece is not seeking the help.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So
If your sleep is disrupted for every night for 2 weeks, consider talking to your doc.
Yeah.
Consider, if your motivation dries up and you can't enjoy anything every day for 2 weeks, talk to somebody. Those are signs of clinical anxiety or clinical depression, and can be very treatable. Talk therapy helps. Sometimes medication helps. Sometimes both. Okay, but if sleep, appetite changes, even kind of cognitive changes with like short-term memory, or you just find yourself ruminating, spinning, hamster wheeling over the same negative stuff over and over, either fears or your own faults and failures, you can't kind of get off that hamster wheel. If your motivation dries up and your normal interests and things that bring you a little bit of satisfaction, if you're just not getting any of that positive emotional hit, and if you find yourself, well, isolating, we can't tell right now if anybody's isolating. Okay, so that one's kind of less important right now. But changes in those areas of human life every day for 2 weeks, that is a kind of shortcut to understanding clinical anxiety, clinical depression, or for folks who may have bipolar disorder, again, dysregulated mood. And that's when it's really helpful to talk to someone with some expertise.
And I remember a time when I thought that going to see a mental health professional meant I was crazy, I was defective, I was no good, and that's not the case. What it is at least I have found, a lot of it is needing somebody who can listen without a whole lot of judgment.
That's right.
Needing that outlet, maybe writing in a journal will give you that outlet. Maybe it won't. Maybe you have to actually verbalize things. And that's where a counselor comes in, very, very helpful. And sometimes there are chemical imbalances in your brain, hormonal imbalances in your body that need to be tweaked. And there is no shame in that, none whatsoever. I make a point at least once or twice a year. Usually it ends up being more, but at least once or twice a year, in a sermon from the pulpit, I'm going to talk about my struggles with depression. I'm going to talk about anxiety. I'm going to talk about those things because they're normal things people deal with.
That's right.
So if you're dealing with those kinds of things, that's normal, and it's perfectly acceptable to go get help. If I break my arm, I'm going to the doctor. If my brain or my emotions are damaged by the circumstances of life right now, I'm going to go see a professional who can help with that damage. So I want to encourage folks to do that. We have gone longer than I thought we were going to. So no, it's okay. It's okay. But I know you have places to go. I appreciate your time so much, Sylvia. Thank you. I expect to see the bill in the mail, but but no, thank you so much. And we will see you again soon, I'm sure.
Anytime we can coordinate it, Mike. I love being able to talk to you, and I love being able to talk about this. It's something I feel very passionate about. Thanks again for this opportunity.
Thank you. Take care. All right, folks. So we're not going to get into the devotional piece, but go ahead and read that. If you don't have the book, go ahead and look up Luke 5:4-7. Great little story to think about. But I want to encourage you, if you have questions pertaining to mental health, emotional health, those kinds of things, you can send those to me. And we can schedule Sylvia to come back on, and we can talk about some of those things. We can have Rhonda back on to talk about some of those things. It is an important conversation to have, because as we have continued to say throughout, we have a viral pandemic, we have a mental health pandemic, we have an economic pandemic, and we have a government that is struggling for some stabilization, and that is a recipe that is the perfect storm, a perfect soup for mental health issues, and issues that need to be discussed, issues that need some coping mechanisms. And so if you have any of that, any of those questions come up, email. You can email me, revmikeumc@gmail.com. That's the one I have in my head right now. But we have the revs2020@gmail.com. You can email, and we will put together another time for Sylvia or Rhonda to come on and help us navigate some of that stuff. If you have prayer requests, please post them in the comments, or send them to the emails I mentioned, or text me, and we are more than happy to pray for you about those specific things. Most importantly, though, folks, know that God loves you, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. Have a great day.